Welcome back into the College Football Every Game on the Board podcast, week number 9, episode number 2, with our two-hole hitter here, Matt Josephs from ESPN Richmond at Mid-Major Matt on Twitter. Matt, welcome on in, bud. How you feeling?
Feeling good. 3 games in a row. We've attacked 3 team totals and hit them all. It's ironic. I think they're all action too. Toledo last week, first half a little slow, and then Kent State did what Kent State does, and we got our over on the Toledo team total. Yeah,
there you go, the Rockets. And is Toledo Washington State on our list here for today?
It is not, but I mean, we could talk about it. I mean,
I like that one. I was going to ask you, what do you think right at the top?
So I feel like for that game, it's interesting because I need to know what we think Washington State's head's going to be at. 2 straight really tough losses, a late loss against UVA in Charlottesville where they give up a safety late and then lose. And then before that was the game at Ole Miss when they played really well and lost that one late. So on the one hand, they may be gaining confidence because they're playing well against good teams. But on the other hand, they might return home and see Toledo and be like, and let down a little bit. So I'll be interested to see. They're a slight favorite in this game. That makes it tougher for me to bet because I don't know if they're going to be hungover or motivated. And then also on the Toledo side, look, Toledo taking a break from MAC play. Are they going to be ready for a non-conference game? I think this is what you're going to ask every team who plays Oregon State and Washington State the rest of the season.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's an interesting matchup, guys. And I kind of like the Cougars, but you're right. Where's their mindset at after those 2 tough losses? I just think they're an underrated team overall, hanging in there with Ole Miss and Virginia, 2 good teams on the road in back-to-back weeks. But guys, we'll get back on track here. If you're new to Every Game on the Board, we talk every single game on the FBS betting slate in college football. And this is episode number 2. We are going down in rotation order, the middle of the Saturday card. We're starting off 145, 146, going down in numerical order. It is 12 noon Eastern kick, SMU and Wake Forest ACC matchup here, Matt. -3. That is SMU, the Mustangs, as the road favorite, 53 and a hook being the total. What are we thinking with the Demon Deacons hosting the Mustangs?
Man, situationally, this is a horrible spot for SMU playing the noon game on the East Coast. It's a sandwich spot coming off the win at Clemson and Miami and homecoming coming up next week. And look, it's an interesting game because obviously for me, I have Wake Forest over 4.5 wins. I need one more win the rest of the season, and I hit my Wake Forest bet, and it was a plus money to the over, so that would be really good for me. And they're coming off a bye week, and so I really like their head coach. I loved what he did at Washington State. I think he's doing some good things. This team is improving. Remember, they should have beaten Georgia Tech a couple of weeks ago, but the ACC did what the ACC does, it feels like, and made the wrong call on the late offsides. And so this is a Wake Forest team that's gaining a lot of confidence. The thing that's going to be very interesting, there's 2 matchups to watch here. 1, SMU is 8th in the country in sacks per game. Wake is allowing 1 per game on average. And then on the other side of things, SMU is dead last in passing yards allowed per game. Dead last, which is crazy to think because usually that's left for the Kent States or the UMasses or bad teams like that. So I think Wake is going to find some opportunities to throw the ball and succeed. I might target some Chris Barnes props. He is the freshman who is 5th in the country in receiving yards. He breaks 1 or 2 big plays every game. So I might look for some Chris Barnes props if they come out for this game, but I kind of lean to Wake Forest. The spot is too pristine for the Demon Deacons here to not play well in this situation.
Yeah, the number's pretty telling. I mean, when you just kind of look at it, seeing -3 for Wake, -3 for SMU, I thought they would be more of a favorite, but you bring us some good points there, Matt. As we'll move down the list, 147, 148, 7 o'clock Eastern in Troy, Alabama. Sunbelt matchup here with the Ragin' Cajuns, UL Lafayette on the road against the Troy Trojans. It is Troy. -9.5 looks to be the consensus number, 49 being the total. Heading to the Sunbelt up next, Matt.
You know, it's funny because Troy, when they lost their quarterback, things weren't going well. And then in the start, Tucker Kilcrease wasn't very good under center. But I found a statistic in the 13 quarters since the fourth quarter versus Buffalo on September 27th, he has completed 67% of his passes for 9 touchdowns. He's run for 2 other ones and thrown for almost 1,000 yards over that span. So he's been smoking hot right now. And you've got a Louisiana team that's just not scoring any points. You know, Lunch Winfield has been a little disappointing passing wise. This team only has 5 passing touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Louisiana has a pretty good defense, but the problem is they're out there way too much. This is an offense that's going at 3 and out consistently. So, Troy is really hot right now. So I think they're going to win this game. I don't know if they necessarily cover the number, but if you're the type who loves to do like money line parlays and you want 2 or 3 or 4 of them to throw together, I think Troy wins this game.
All right, towards the Trojans, we got next one up, noon Eastern kick, so 11 local time. It is Oklahoma hosting Mississippi. It is the Sooners -5 and a hook as the home favorite, 53 being the total. Ole Miss on the road in Norman, Oklahoma here.
So Oklahoma's been really impressive so far this season, and their defense has been ridiculous. I mean, I think this Sooners team, what Coach Venables has done there with that defense is awesome, because he's in a conference now where you have to have great defense week after week after week. Obviously holding South Carolina to 7 last week was good. I mean, that's not a great offense, but holding them to 7 is really good. My question for the Oklahoma side is, where is John Mateer? He came back way too early. He looked bad in the Texas game. He looks slightly better in the next game, the South Carolina game. I feel like this is about the time where he would have come back normally. So maybe he starts to play a whole lot better in this game. And then on the Ole Miss side, it looks like Trinidad Chambliss is going to start. My question is there actually a hangover spot here, losing to Georgia on the road the way they did? I don't know if there can be a hangover in this conference, because there's just so many emotional games back to back to back. The thing I would usually go to here in this situation is the opposing team total under against Oklahoma. You can get a 24.5 at a reasonable juice. It's supposed to be rainy and windy potentially for this game. So I might back this Oklahoma defense and take under 24.5 points for Ole Miss.
Interesting look there, going against Lane Kiffin and Chambliss, like you talked about, the quarterback there, maybe on the team total towards the under with Ole Miss against that vaunted Oklahoma defense. We'll move down the list here. Another early kick, 12 noon Eastern, Ohio and Eastern Michigan. We are seeing the Bobcats -11 and a hook as the road favorite, 58 being the total. This one kicking us off, early kick here in the MAC. What are we thinking?
So, I'm a broken record, but it's always happening in our segment. Eastern Michigan, you back as an underdog. Now, it's not a guarantee. Don't get me wrong. They've failed to cover several times this season as an underdog, but the only time you ever play Eastern Michigan is as a dog, and especially at home. Their coach, Chris Creighton, has done a great job. And once again, it's the same statistic that I've said all along. It's still good. Eastern Michigan's one of 5 teams in the nation that's perfect in the red zone. They pay off their red zone trips of points, whether it's field goals or touchdowns, and they still have not lost a fumble this season. So you're getting an offense here that is going to be able to move the ball a little bit and pay off their drives at the end. And so to me, that's a good recipe here for either a team total over on Eastern Michigan side or potentially taking them on the spread. Ohio's offense has been tremendous this season. Scoring 48 on Northern Illinois is a tremendous feat, because Northern Illinois' defense, when properly rested, is really good. So I don't know if I'm ready to fade Ohio yet, but if you were ever to take Eastern Michigan, it would be as a home underdog, because Chris Creighton is a tremendous underdog his career.
That's the first of 4 MAC games we're going to be talking. And as we're getting here to the end of October, MACtion's going to start midweek. Is it next? No, I believe it's in 2 weeks, but in the month of November, they'll be playing MAC games midweek. Are you excited for that? Are you one that likes midweek football?
Of course. I love midweek football. I think I love, let me just say, non-conference USA midweek football. I think midweek football is tremendous. I think MACtion's great. The Sun Belt plays on Tuesday nights. JMU's playing next Tuesday night against Texas State, so I'm looking forward to that. But I love MACtion, and I'm feeling good. My position here is I still have Buffalo to make the conference championship game. I have Buffalo's season win total over. It is not great that they needed late heroics to beat UMass and also late heroics to beat Kent State, but I think it's toughening them up. They still have to play Akron this week, which I think hopefully will be a victory, and then they really get Bowling Green. I think they get Central Michigan or Western Michigan, and then Miami, Ohio, and Ohio. So it's going to get a lot tougher for Buffalo. But I love MACtion. Who doesn't love MACtion?
Yeah, what happened there with Buffalo, man? I had a bet on them over UMass, and they just never got close to covering, man. That was a head scratcher.
Well, yeah. So we talked. You asked me about that game last week, and I've watched enough Buffalo this season to know that they're just not. they're good. Don't get me wrong. I love Red Murdoch, one of the best linebackers in the country. Victor Snow, one of the most underrated wide receivers in the country. I think it's more Taquan Roberson. I think he's very good sometimes. He's not so good sometimes. Al-Jay Henderson is not finding as many holes as he has. I still have a lot of faith in Buffalo. I mean, look at this conference. We saw Toledo has a couple losses. Ohio has a loss. Western Michigan and Miami don't have losses, but they play both of them. So I still believe in Buffalo. It's just, man, they're driving me crazy with how close these games are.
In the Conference USA part of your answer, you're not a midweek Conference USA fan, huh?
I just think the Conference USA is high school football. I no offense to any of the teams that play there, but like you have all these teams spread out all over the country, and none of the matchups are motivating. Like I have to watch the Liberty games for my job, but like if I didn't have to, I wouldn't. And I apologize to everybody because I was very heavy on Middle Tennessee's win total over. It's not going to hit. It's going to be a loss, but other than that, it's miserable football.
Yeah, you're right. The way that they set it up and just kind of conference expansion, Conference USA is kind of a funny one to look at.
Here's the other thing. Liberty now has 17 days off. They're in the midst of a stretch. They played last on the 14th. They don't play again till the 1st. 17 days off that should be impossible in college football, but they will not play from October 14th to November 1st.
Yeah, but wouldn't you know this? I mean, just working what you do, ESPN Richmond there, wouldn't some of that be their own fault? You have some control over what your schedule is.
Well, that's the problem with playing the Tuesday, Wednesday games is if you play on a Tuesday and then you give the team the bye week the next week and then you're stopping because they're going back to Saturdays for November. So if you go and you play Tuesday, then you're off the rest of the week, you're off next week, and then you're off again because you're not playing a midweek game. That's how you get to 17 days off.
Yeah, weird stuff happening in college football, but hey, as a sports bettor, it gives us some, possibly an advantage schedule spot wise. All right, let's move down the list here. Back to action. Bowling Green and Kent State, another early kick here, 12 noon Eastern, 48 being the total. We're seeing Bowling Green -7 and a hook, kind of a split line here as the road favorite taking on Kent.
So spot-wise, I like Kent State. I don't know if I can actually put my money there. Bowling Green's got Buffalo next week, as we said. That's a very important game for the standings here for Bowling Green. Plus, we don't know about the status of Drew Pine, their quarterback. Their backup quarterback, I think it's Caden Anderson, or it's some other guy. His last name's Anderson. He's terrible. He is absolutely horrendous. And so, that's why they lost last week is because, and we had, or at least I gave out Central Michigan on the show last week. You make sure to kind of watch the availability reports for this game. If Drew Pine plays, I like Bowling Green a little bit more, but if he doesn't, I like the under in this game. I think Bowling Green's defense is pretty good. I think Kent's defense is good enough, and I could see a game where this is 31-17, 31-13, which goes under the total. And I don't even know if they could get the 31 points with Bowling Green's backup quarterback, but that's something to watch as we get closer to Saturday. If Drew Pine plays, this is probably a pass. If their backup quarterback is in, I'd look at the under here because he is a terrible quarterback.
All right, we got Western Michigan and Miami of Ohio up next, 3:30 Eastern kick here. Tight point spread, Miami O -1 and a hook, pretty much across the board as the home favorite, 41 and a hook being the total.
Western Michigan's been impressive this year. I like what Western Michigan has done. Obviously they've got Bosma and they've got Buckley, who's been injured a little bit this season. Their quarterback play is not the greatest. I don't love Brock Lowry, but he's made some plays, and so that's mattered. And then on the Miami side of things, Daquan Finn's been tremendous. Brunson at running back, he's been tremendous too. I would lean to the home team in this situation, but I'm seeing a lot of money come in on Western Michigan, so it makes me wonder why. So I'm going to probably pass on this game, but the money's coming in on Western Michigan, and both of these teams are very good upper echelon teams in the MAC.
All right, the fourth of four MAC games, Ball State and Northern Illinois. It is Northern Illinois -6 as the home favorite, 43 being the total.
Light rain in this game as of now. And of course, when I give the weather forecast, know full well it's still Thursday, 48 hours away. So things can change. It could be heavier rain or it could be no rain. But as of now, I see light rain in the forecast. And I think that makes things a little interesting in this game. Northern Illinois' offense is bad. I mean, it's just bad. They've tried a bunch of quarterbacks. Nothing's really worked. They lost 48-21 to Ohio. It's going to be a miserable season the rest of the year for Northern Illinois. But 5 of their last 7 opponents have had under 200 yards passing. The thing is, against Ball State, that doesn't really matter. They don't want to run the ball all that much. They've got Ashley at running back and Kyle Kelly at quarterback. So like, they're okay with ugly conditions, and they're okay not being able to throw the ball here. The last 7 meetings in this rivalry, I think this is the bronze stalk. I forget, because every MAC game has some sort of item involved. This has been a very tight series. Last 7 meetings have been decided by a total of 15 points. Ball State feeling good about themselves after the win over Akron. Slight lean to Ball State in the situation. NIU's strength is against the pass. Well, Ball State doesn't have to pass. They'll prefer to run the ball, and I think they could find a little success in this game.
All right, stepping up to the Big Ten, we got Northwestern and Nebraska. We are seeing the Cornhuskers -7 in the hook as the home favorite, 44 being the total in Lincoln.
So I was wrong last week. I'll just admit up front, for my plays I posted last week, they were brutal. It was bad. I backed some teams I shouldn't have. I backed Purdue last week. That was bad. Purdue's terrible. I should never do that again because Northwestern won in an ugly game, 19-0. This Northwestern team's interesting because they could have folded last week after the Penn State win. They played really well against Purdue. I like what they're doing. Their defense hasn't been bad. And the matchup to watch here is Northwestern's running for over 190 yards per game. Nebraska has the 4th worst rushing defense in the conference. So Northwestern's running back could be somebody you might throw in DFS lineups or maybe look at his prop. On the Nebraska side of things, a lot of questions about the offensive coordinator in Nebraska. Now, they're not doing the fake protests like they're doing on South Carolina's campus for Mike Shula, but like Nebraska is a team that's just not playing well offensively. Not to mention they've allowed 22 sacks over the last 4 games. Confidence-wise, I kind of like Northwestern on the road in this situation, but the thing is, like, are you ready to put your money on Northwestern on the road? I don't know if I can, but I think they can certainly make things interesting.
Matt, next one up, we got Auburn and Arkansas. Razorbacks -2.5 at home, 55 and a hook being the total. I like the War Eagles here, wearing the hat and everything, Matt. It's just the schedule has been so tough. I think they finally get a chance here to grab a win. If you look over their last 4 games, they were all competitive, all against good teams. They took the loss in all of them. Some of them, I feel like the refs were against them, but hey, that might be the bias in being an Auburn alum, man. How do you feel about this one? Any quick thoughts?
Well, I need Auburn to lose once the rest of the season. I have under 7.5 wins for Auburn. If they lose one more time, I win that. It was like plus 145 too. I thought that was a crazy line because your schedule is really tough this year. I do think it's funny that the coach announced Jackson Arnold is going to start, but they're also going to have Deuce Knight and Ashton Daniels ready. Like, okay, super. That's tremendous. And then you look at Arkansas. I didn't realize Taylon Green leading the nation in total offense. Like, Taylon Green has been really good. I guess I was 2 years off from his Heisman campaign. Now, granted, he's not winning the Heisman either, but he's having a really good season. My question mark, Drew, is are the tough losses getting to the team? Is the fact that no one likes Hugh Freeze, like, is that getting to Auburn? It's a road game. It's going to be rainy and windy. The weather's going to be ugly for this game. My question is, where is your team's heads at for this contest? You obviously understand them better than I do, but my question is, like, are they done on the season? Are they done on Hugh Freeze? Or are they going to be motivated to beat a team that they should beat?
Well, they've been competitive. I mean, in the last 4 games. Now, granted, some of that's been at home. You bring up the point this one's on the road. I think so, but at the same time, your point on Hugh Freeze, I think there's something there, man. What is up with people? Just don't like him, huh?
It's so funny because I read a lot of articles when I do my research on all these games, and it's just a lot of people are like, we need to get rid of Hugh Freeze. And it's so funny because when he came in, they're like, oh, this guy's great. He's going to revolutionize all sorts of things, and we're going to take off. And now, like, what, 2-3 years later, it's like, all right, he's got to go. But that's SEC life. Like, in the SEC, you could get like 2 years, and that's it. And so I kind of understand it.
In being the head coach for Liberty, I'm guessing you interacted with him. I mean, did you feel he was a likable guy, or?
I mean, everybody remembers the scene where he went against when they played Syracuse and he was in the hospital bed and he gave the thumbs up to Syracuse. Like, I mean, I think that's the lasting image that everybody has of Hugh Freeze, more so anything he did on the field for Liberty.
Oh, yeah, that was definitely a funny one, man. All right, back to the games. 12 noon Eastern, 163, 164 going down in rotation order. It is App State and Old Dominion. ODU -2 touchdowns as the home favorite, 62 being the total.
I mean, once again, this is another game where I don't want to guess where the heads are at for 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. ODU's lost two games badly. They lost at Marshall. I figured it was a look-ahead spot. They were getting ready for the Royal rivalry against JMU, and then they played really well in the first half against JMU, and I was wrong that I thought JMU couldn't win a shootout, and I guess it really wasn't a shootout in the end, but like, where's ODU's head at? They're coming home now. It's a home game after 2 straight on the road. In theory, they should go and destroy App State. App State gave up 45 points to Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina's offense is bad. Coastal Carolina's offense is really bad, and they gave up 45 points to them last week on homecoming, to say that to least. If ODU's focused, they're going to win this game by a lot. Colton Joseph is a really good quarterback. He's had 2 straight bad games. If they're not focused, though, this could be a little bit closer than we think. So I lean to ODU here, but I hate trying to guess what kids are going to feel like after a couple losses.
Heading to Iowa City up next, 3:30 Eastern, Minnesota and Iowa. It is the Hawkeyes, -8 to as high as -9 as the home favorite. Sub 40 total here, Matt. 38.5, 39 being the total in Iowa City.
So, I've told you every time we've had Minnesota in, the bet to make here is the first quarter under. Now it's 7.5. So that's a little dicey. That's a little scary. We've had a lot of 10.5 so far this season. The only time it didn't hit in an FBS game, actually, I think it hit every time in the FBS game. I think it was 9.5 for the Ohio State game, and they scored 10 in that part. But, Minnesota first quarter unders, that's just the way to go. Now, it would be, as we've talked about, there's certain bets I make every week, and I just adjust the unit size. This one's more of a sprinkle bet than a full unit bet because of the fact that it's 7.5. But for those not familiar, because we might have new people here, I've been giving out the Minnesota first quarter under in FBS games for the last 3 years. And I don't know exactly what the record is, but it's very heavily over 500, 600, 700. It's won a lot so far this season. Iowa's offense is not great, but they are going to get healthy. They're getting a couple running backs back, and the starting linebacker is coming back too, looking off the participation reports. And Minnesota is a brutal offense in the first quarter. So I'm going to give this out as a sprinkle type bet here, but the Minnesota first quarter under has been one of the most profitable things I've bet on in college football the last 3 years.
I love when Matt throws out these, I guess, trends, angles of things you always repeat back, because as a sports bettor, sometimes it's just keep it simple. If it's working, just keep hammering it, man. And Minnesota first quarter unders are one of them. What are some of the others? Eastern Michigan is the underdog he threw out there. The Colorado Rockies opposing starting pitcher. His under strikeout total. I remember you throwing that out in baseball season one time. That was a money one. You got a couple of those in your back pocket.
Yeah, last year, the last month or two of the college basketball season, we took the team total overs against Bellarmine, especially on the road, because Bellarmine's defense was historically bad. We also have taken Toledo basketball team total overs because their offense is really good and they play a lot of high-scoring games. There was the year, 3 or 4 years ago, we took the Jets team total over in the first quarter because it used to be 0 and they would score some points in the first quarter. So it's just, I think that's why I'm a little bit different than everybody else. Cause we have the guy in the YouTube chat who says, I'm not even sure how you come up with these plays. It's because I look at every market. I find value in the touchdowns market. I find value in the team totals market. It's a quote unquote easier handicap because you're only handicapping an offense against the defense. If you think this offense is going to do really well, who cares about the team or the game total? Take that team total, and then you only have to worry about one half of the game. So I think that's where I'm a little bit different than everybody else. I'm sure it's frustrating for some people because I'm not as into the Power 5 matchups, but I know a lot about the G5 and certainly especially the MAC.
And what about his he also threw in a comment about your hat, and I don't know how you're giving out the plays with your hat, that Syracuse hat, man. Is it getting cold where you're at?
Yeah, they are working on the heater in our office, so it is a little cold in the building right now. But yes, I don't dress professionally for this, and I am a professional handicapper potentially in name, but not look. I'm not going to wear suits and stuff like that and just dazzle people with what I wear. I'm just a guy like everybody else who watches this thing.
And then we got Zach in the house saying thanks for the Toledo team total. So thanks for that, Zach. And guys, feel free to chime in on YouTube or Twitter. Every game on the board on YouTube, also on Twitter at Drew Martin Betts, at Mid Major Matt, talking every single game on the board. All right, moving down the list. I believe this is the Sunflower rivalry. I'm not really sure. Kansas State and Kansas. It is the Jayhawks. -3, -3.5 split line, 56 and a hook being the total.
Yeah, this is an interesting game because Kansas State has won 16 straight. 16 straight. The last time Kansas was favored in this series was 2008. And we've got weather potentially. Rain and wind could be in the forecast for this one. And that changes things a little bit. Now, looks like Kansas State's going to be without Dylan Edwards, but like he's been out a lot of the season. He's been in and out of the lineup. So like that's not, it's a loss, but it's not like this terrible loss. Plus, they're coming off a bye week. I always like these teams that have had rough seasons off their bye week. Because I just feel like it gives them an opportunity to refresh and kind of look and be like, all right, we've got X amount of games left. Let's go out there. We feel better about ourselves. It's a whole new season. And then on the Kansas side, like I like Kansas's offense. I don't love their defense, that's for sure. So this one feels like a higher scoring game, but also I'll be watching the weather for this thing as we come down the stretch, because if rain and wind are involved, then that's going to certainly change things in terms of my thoughts for the total.
We got 169, 170 up next. UL Monroe in Southern Miss, 3:30 Eastern kick here. Southern Miss -12 and a hook as the home favorite, 49.5 being the total in Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
So, as I always like to refer to them, basically the Marshall All-Stars, they've been really good this year. This is a Southern Miss team that I think people undersold because they saw a new coach and they didn't realize that like a lot of his players went with him. So he doesn't have to do as much teaching of the system as you would a normal coaching change. So like this is a team that I think is playing really well right now. And you've got ULM who's scored 29 points the last 3 weeks. They lost to Troy 37-14. Now, I don't love Southern Miss's defense. Rain and wind also potentially in this forecast. So certainly look at that. But I might look at an under 20.5. I mean, for ULM. ULM's offense is just not scoring right now. And I think that they will struggle in the conditions potentially. So potentially looking at like an under 20.5 points here for ULM. And I always say on this podcast, you got to get the key numbers in football. I don't love paying a ton of juice, but I'm willing to go up to like -145, -150 to get a 20.5 or a 21.5. That way you have the comfort of the even number as opposed to like a 19.5 where you lose on, two touchdowns and 2 field goals.
We're heading out west for the next one, Mountain West action. New Mexico hosting Utah State. It is the Lobos, -3 as the home favorite, 61 being the total. Utah State at New Mexico from Albuquerque.
The Bronco Mendenhall Bowl. For those not familiar, Bronco coached at New Mexico last year, and Bronco left under weird circumstances, and now he's at Utah State. So this should be a highly charged atmosphere, as people, I'm sure, in New Mexico don't love Bronco Mendenhall, but like he's done a great job with Utah State. A lot of it goes to Bryson Barnes, their quarterback, who's just been tremendous. 13 touchdowns, 2 interceptions passing, 7 touchdowns rushing. Problem for Utah State is they're 125th in pass defense. They're 128th in total defense. Can New Mexico take advantage of it? I'm not a Jack Lane guy. I think Jack Lane is a mediocre quarterback. They have a really good ground game, but the problem is that they may need to throw it to win in this one. I have a slight lean to the over here. I just don't see how either team is going to stop each other. This game was 50-45 last year, so we could see something like that once again. But this is a sneaky good game for Saturday with Bronco Mendenhall returning to Lubbock.
Yeah, and with 61 just being the total, I'm with you. Maybe some points there in Albuquerque. We get Colorado and Utah up next. Utah -13.5 at home, 49 and a hook being the total in Salt Lake City. Late night kick, 10:15 Eastern.
By the way, I meant to say Albuquerque, not Lubbock. Lubbock is where Texas Tech is. My apologies. So this is an interesting game because Devon Dampier's beat up. Devon Dampier was, I believe, limited in his or questionable, whatever they do for participation reports in that conference. There's a chance he may not play, and if he doesn't play, it's a true freshman. Bird Ficklin is the backup quarterback. Look, I've always said on this show, I trust Kyle Whittingham. I think he's a really good coach. He's got great assistants. His defensive coordinator is one of the best. You've got a Colorado team coming off a bye week, so 2 weeks to prepare. I kind of like Colorado if Dampier doesn't play. Heck, I kind of like Colorado if he does play because I think there's a chance maybe it goes up a little bit because people are maybe hesitant right now to bet on Utah because of Dampier's status. So I almost would potentially wait on this game and see if he gets confirmed in and then maybe take it after it gets bumped up a little bit. The problem with that is if he's confirmed out and then the true freshman is in, this line's going to plummet. So you might want to get Colorado right now, but I have a slight lean to Colorado in this situation. Plus, hangover after the Holy War, Cincinnati at home up next, a huge game for Utah. I kind of like Colorado in this situation.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. Just the spot wise in general. I mean, it's almost like a sandwich spot for the Utes, and then Colorado off of a bye, catching almost 2 touchdowns here. Great points there, Matt. We'll head to the SEC up next. Starkville, Mississippi for Texas at Mississippi State. We're seeing the Longhorns -7 as the road favorites, 7 and a hook at some shops, 45 being the total.
So you're better at this game than I am, but this is Texas's 4th straight game away from home. They've played a lot of road games, and then of course the Red River Shootout is at a neutral field. So Texas has not been home for over a month, and so this is another road game against a Mississippi State team that I like their passing attack. They showed a lot last week at Florida. Texas's leading tackler is out after having surgery here, so. I don't know. Look, you know better than I would, but Drew, is Mississippi State live here, especially if you can get that touchdown?
I think so. I mean, they're playing decent football. It doesn't really show in their record because of their schedule as well. But I mean, Texas has had their hiccups as well. So asking them to win by more than a touchdown on the road, I think is it's a lot to ask. Remember those cowbells will be ringing in Starkville. So if you made me bet it, I'm not involved, but I would look towards the Bulldogs. We'll head back to the Mountain West here. Fresno State at home against San Diego State. And we are seeing the Aztecs -2 and a hook or -3, split line as the road favorite, 47 and a hook being the total. Fresno State, they've been down and then up and then back down again. Kind of a tough team to handicap. What are you thinking in the Valley?
Yeah, both teams coming off a bye week, so that gives each an advantage, but then also takes away an advantage. San Diego State's offense, I can't bet on the road. San Diego State's offense, remember, they are playing the Aztec fast style that Coach Lewis had at Kent State. Their quarterback play has been all over the place so far this season. But San Diego State's defense, I would bet anywhere. San Diego State's defense is 5th best in the country in terms of points allowed. They're 16th against the rush, 16th against the pass. And so, I see Fresno State's team total is 21.5. I kind of like San Diego State to hold them under that. This is a really, really, really good defense. They brought a ton of starters back from last year. And obviously that doesn't matter as much now because we're, a month plus into the season. But San Diego State's defense is for real. And so, I think that they can hold down Fresno State. Now, it is a worry. They're coming off the bye weeks. As they can add some wrinkles and things to the Fresno offense. But I kind of like under that 21.5 points for Fresno State. I will buy San Diego State's defense. I want nothing to do with their offense.
Matt, we got 2 games left here. We also got a best bet coming from Matt. He's hit 2 or 3 in a row. Best bet swept last weekend. So stay tuned for that. But Matt, you're a guy that covers college basketball a bunch. Before we get to the last 2 games, we got some somewhat breaking news here with an NBA gambling scandal. Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier arrested. Anything you want to throw out on that? I know you cover this kind of stuff.
So I think it's interesting because I think that uneducated people will blame the legalization of gambling. The reason why we found out about this stuff is the legalization of gambling because we have funneled things to FanDuel and DraftKings and BetMGM. They noticed the irregularities. These irregularities would never get noticed if we did not legalize sports betting. I mean, people in Vegas probably would, but if you're smart enough to do something like this, you wouldn't bet this in Vegas if it wasn't legalized. So, I know this sort of thing happens. I know that there's probably players who bet on or against themselves. That's why it's weird that November 1st, the players and coaches and administrators in the NCAA can bet on pro sports. It just got passed in the D3 level. So that's official now on November 1st. I think that's a slippery slope that you can tell players, hey, you can bet on the pros, just don't bet on yourself. It's going to happen. And so we're going to probably see the change of that rule. But I just kind of accept these things and you hope you're on the positive side. If you bet on, Jonte Porter unders or Terry Rozier unders or things like that, but it happens. It's just don't blame the legalization of gambling because that's the reason why we figured this stuff out as opposed to before.
Fair enough, Matt. All right, back to the games. Texas A&M and LSU. We've seen the Aggies -2.5 as the road favorite in this SEC matchup. 7:30 Eastern in Baton Rouge. 48.5 being the total, Matt.
Weather could be a factor here. Rain and wind. I mean, you're the SEC guy of the two of us here, Drew. But like, I don't trust Brian Kelly at all. Like, I'm just not a Brian Kelly guy. And this offense should be doing a lot more, it feels like. Like, Nussmeier's been a massive disappointment, it feels like, in LSU. Texas A&M, they play that high-scoring game at Arkansas, potentially looking ahead to this one. Texas A&M's offense, Marcel Reed should be able to run. I did notice in a lot of the stuff that I read, LSU has struggled with mobile quarterbacks. So maybe a Marcel Reed rushing prop could be something that you take a look here at, because he's a very mobile quarterback. But, Drew, I just generally don't like LSU because I don't like Brian Kelly.
Yeah, it's Texas A&M or pass for me as well. I agree with you. Nussmeier just he hasn't kind of lived up to the billing coming in. But we got one game left for the segment. We'll bring in Robbie Vino as well. We got the best bet coming up. It is Temple and Tulsa, 3:30 Eastern, with the Temple Owls -5 and a hook as the road favorite, 54 being the total in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Wait, we don't get an owl?
All right, the Temple Owls on the road against Tulsa.
I was going to say, that was the thing I was looking forward to the most, is your owl sound. And now Temple's going to win the game because you did. If you didn't do it, they were going to lose. Look, everybody knows I'm a Temple fan from Philadelphia. I love Temple football. I'm so happy with what Casey Keeler's done there, but I'm stunned that they played as well as they did. I guess it really says how bad Charlotte is, because the way they lost to Navy, having that game stolen from them by Navy, it wasn't the officials for the most part. At the end of the game, like, I thought Temple was going to be hungover. I almost took Charlotte plus the points last week because I figured they were just going to play in a lackluster atmosphere and just not play very well. But they went down there and destroyed Charlotte, and they're going to get healthier this week. A guard and a tight end are probably coming back. And I really like what Casey Keeler's doing. He has made Temple legitimate again, and there's a shot that Temple will go to a bowl game this coming season. Tulsa's interesting because they have the extra day. Remember, they played last Thursday. They lost at East Carolina. This Tulsa offense, I don't think is that great. It's funny because when Temple plays Tulsa in basketball, that place is a house of horrors for Temple. Like, I've made so much money taking Tulsa in those games because for some reason Temple can't win in the Reynolds Center or whatever they're calling it nowadays. So I don't think that carries over to the football here, but I'm not ready for a world where Temple is a road favorite 2 games in a row. Not saying I'm taking Tulsa because I wouldn't make that mistake again, but we're in a world now where the Temple Owls, one of the worst teams in college football history, is now a road favorite in 2 straight games. What a crazy job. I'm so happy Casey Keeler went to Temple.
Yeah, man, great breakdown overall. We got Adam in the house. Don't believe everything you hear. For sure, Adam, with this stuff. I mean, it's just coming out now. I'm always one, follow the money. That will usually lead to what you're looking for in a lot of things in life. So I'd throw that out with a gambling scandal as well. But Matt, man, great stuff as always, breaking down the middle portion of the Saturday card on the Every Game on the Board. You can find Matt on Twitter at MidMajor Matt, his show, ESPN Richmond. Matt, what do we got for best bet, man?
So this is really tough for me this week. And because going into the week, there were 2 team totals I wanted to target. And both of them have some things hanging over them. So it looks like, and this is good because it gives clarity here, it looks like Texas Tech is starting Will Hammond at quarterback against Oklahoma State. The rest of the season, I am taking team total overs against Oklahoma State. They've mailed in they're done. There's no reason for them to be motivated the rest of the season. And Texas Tech with Will Hammond, I think, is good, but that's not the official best bet. The other team I wanted to target was your team, Drew, the Miami Hurricanes. Now, when you look at the forecast for Saturday, it is very windy. I'm talking about 20 to 30 mile per hour wind gusts. Now, I don't know necessarily how Miami Stadium holds up for that whole thing. Remember, it's not a dome, but it's enclosed for the most part. As I try and make the thing on the screen, it's enclosed, it feels like, for the most part. So I'm not as quite worried about how much it will affect things. Rain is always a factor in Miami. Oh, well, but this is a Miami team that's had extra time to hear about how bad they played against Louisville and how everybody's ready to sell them. And you've got a Stanford team coming off of the huge win over Florida State on the road. They're coming east. It's an earlier game for Stanford, of course. And while it's a 7:00 game, but that's still like a 4:00 game for them. But like, I think Miami shows up, and I think Miami shows up hard here. We've talked about on this show taking advantage of differences in the market. So we talk about team totals and we talk about touchdowns markets, which is in DraftKings. I think Bet Rivers has it. I think BetMGM has it. Right now, the team total for Miami is 37.5, which means they have to score 38 points. If you look on DraftKings right now, you can get over 4.5 touchdowns at minus 135, which means they would, in theory, only have to score 35 points, which gives you a little bit of leeway between that and the team total. So I'm going to give out Miami over 4.5 touchdowns at minus 135 on DraftKings. I just think this team's going to score a lot. I think you can run, and I think this team is certainly going to get Carson Beck involved. He had 4 interceptions last week. I think Carson Beck is going to have a better game. I think that stadium can handle wind a little bit better than other stadiums can. So I'm taking Miami to basically flex their muscles, score like 50 points, and embarrass Stanford at home on Saturday night. So give me over 4.5 touchdowns for the Canes, minus 135 on DraftKings.
Yeah, and I like your analysis on the stadium because it does hold wind out very well. Just go into that stadium a lot. Matt, great stuff as always, man. Anything else before you shut this down?
Nope. It's been a fun podcast. And certainly now I think things get a little quote unquote easier to handicap because now we're seeing the teams who don't care about the rest of the season. We just have to take advantage of them somehow. So looking forward to that. Hopefully we can extend the win streak to 4 on the best bets, and we'll do this again next week.
All right. At Mid-Major Matt on Twitter, ESPN Richmond. Go check them out, guys. We will be right back with Robbie Vino. Until then, cash those tickets. Thanks for tuning in.